Hi, I'm Lewis. I shoot for Team Rip Precision Rifles in Planet Ford, and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to set up the Eagle Ballistic app in PRS mode. So you just grab your phone, open up the app, you look at your book, you put in target A, the range is 862. I'm going to set it, then I'm going to grab the azimuth to the target. So I'll go up here and I find the target, and I set both the azimuth and inclination. Then I'm going to go to the next target, Papa, 546 yards. I'm going to grab the azimuth to it. So I'm leaving this one. I'm going over here, and there is that target right there. Next target, RO, 897 yards. I'm going to set that. I'm going to grab the azimuth. There we go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the wind speed. I'm going to click on here. Got my wind meter rolling. Hit start. And you can see how quickly it's grabbing wind speed. I already got an average up to 7.25. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to set my wind speed. And now I'm going to set my wind direction. The wind is coming from about 10 o'clock position today, but it's very simple to change it, even in the middle here. Now that you have all your data, you can set your wind variance. If you saw a wind variance of say 2 miles per hour, say the wind's gusting or lulling, you can set that, and then you'll have what your actual hold's supposed to be for the wind, left 0.6. If the wind picks up, it's left 0.7. If it drops off, it's about a 0.5. You can set up to 30 stages in here, but most matches, they're at pro matches, they're 18 to 20 stages. So you just swipe sideways and you can add your stages. You can see how they're changing here. And you can see how I had stages from last match. This is a very simple, easy app to use. Very, very accurate. A lot of the guys on the teams are using it now. I highly recommend it. Eagle Ballistic app. We're going to test out James's Eagle app and put in some data, put in our wind, and we're going to shoot a few targets. It's on the money.
Hey, James Eagleman here at Eagle Ballistics and of course Barber Creek, the place I teach for. So I want to cover the Eagle Ballistics app in an overview, and I'm going to try to do this semi-fast, but up front, this is the heads-up display. When you first purchase the app, you're going to go to the grocery cart in the bottom right, and you decide if you want monthly or annually, and then you choose if you want the long range or the PRS. Now, there are some other ones in here like the light, but that's only good to 500 yards. The long range will go out as far as you want to shoot, basically. And then the PRS has multi-targets and all that kind of stuff. So once you decide on a subscription, then you're good to go. You're going to first go into settings, which is just to the left of it. There's a basic mode, which allows you to put certain inputs in. And then there's an advanced mode. This is a very intuitive ability to build rifles. So let's just start off here. And by the way, in the upper left is a folder. You click on it, you can see all the guns I got in here. If I want to add a new gun, I hit the plus sign, and you can see it's highlighted in gray. And if I want to make a copy of that, I push the little double paper thing and it makes a copy of it. So why that's highlighted, that's the gun I'm working on. Hit the settings again, stay in advanced mode, name the gun. I'm going to call this test for video. Okay, underneath it, select the barrel twist. Let's make it an 8 twist. There has a negative for a left-hand twist, positive for a right. Hit set. By the way, I've broken this down into blocks. Block 1 is rifle and scope. MOA or mil, whatever you want to do. Let's go mil. Scope height, you can use calibers, hand type it in, and we've got the tool, which I've got a video on, which I'll show you real quick while we're talking about this. Hit set scope height. And then scope correction factor, if you click the circle, if you've done a tall target test, let's say at 100 yards. And then my solver automatically says if you dial 8.73 mils, your point of impact should have moved 31.4. Let's say it moved 31.5, hit set, it says your correction factor calculated as 0.9973, hit set. I'm not going to get into that here, but there's a video on how to do a scope correction factor. We're now done with the scope. We're in the bullet block. So I've assembled a very intuitive library. Let's say we're shooting Hornady ammunition and a .264 caliber, and we're running a 147 ELD match. Hit select, it drops in a nominal ballistic coefficient. And a lot of these BCs I've found myself using my app, or I might have used what the manufacturer provided me. Next, we're going to go ahead and talk about the BC. You can true the ballistic coefficient by hitting a circle. Let's say I shot at 1,000 yards, and it's saying it should have taken me 7.14 mils. Let's say it really took me 7 mils. Hit select. It gave me a new BC. I just trued my BC. You can true velocities. I'm not a fan of that, but I'm going to leave that alone. Now the button to the left you will not see unless you're in PRS mode, and that allows you to true in super, trans, and subsonic. Moving down, you're going to select, now my app's going to select automatically certain bullets and let you know that it's a copper bullet, solid copper, or lead. And this is purely for the warning when you get to retain velocity for hunting, which we'll talk about. It gives you your RPMs. This bullet is spinning 270,000 RPMs, and it has a gyroscopic stability of 1.57. It turns yellow because it doesn't meet my standard, which is 1.6. Moving up to 0, this is where you tell the solver what range you zeroed the gun. The 0 height and offset means are you hitting a little high or a little low and left and right. You can actually use the ruler and measure your point of impact from your aim point. I'm going to leave it at 0, okay? And then scope angle lock, which I've got a video on, which talks about your 0 angle, okay? Moving up, we're environmentals. All this is done automatically. This is purely for you to view. You do not set the wind here. Again, you can if you want to, but you should be doing everything from the HUD. Target information, it's telling you what range you're shooting at, what inclination, azimuth, what latitude you're at, so on and so forth. We'll cover shooting a tripod. This is impact information. It's giving you time of flight, retain velocity, retain energy, slope angle, speed of sound. It tells you where you're hitting the speed of sound. It tells you where your bullet's going transonic, maximum hunting range, and all that. Accuracy and sensitivity. This is the circle area of probability. It allows you to do a test and say, what if I was off on something, wind, whatever. It will show you your error, okay? So I'm going to leave that alone for right now. Now, when you get down here to the other, it's got imperial and metric, depends on what you're using. Make sure everything's turned on. Use device pressure, device location, online weather, adjust for gravity at location. The other information is nominal. This information where it says activation for admin, folks, that's not for you. So I get a lot of folks that contact me and say, where's my code? You don't get a code. This is an admin code for class, okay? So just ignore it. All right, to the left is where you would connect devices. And if I was to wake up a certain rangefinder or something like that, then I could connect the device. If I was connecting to a wind meter, I was connecting to a wind zero, I was connecting to a Calypso. This is all done through devices. Now, this has a rangefinder selected. I would tell my app what I want the rangefinder to send me. I can ignore environmentals, I can ignore inclination, I can ignore azimuth. So this is for some of the rangefinders that connect to the Eagle Ballistics app. There are quite a few. I'm not going to list them right now. All right, to the left of that is basically what's called range card. The range card will do a wind card, a range card, details that tells you everything that's happening to your bullet during flight. For instance, at the 1,000-yard range, it's got 5.85 inches of spin drift, it's got 81 inches of wind deflection, and 0 Coriolis, and 0 of the 8.7. So that's all pretty simple, all right? Now, I haven't set up anything, that's why it's got 0 Coriolis. So I'm going to go here to the HUD heads-up display, or the HUD. This is where everything's done, all right? So if I am shooting and I am trying to set my wind and set everything else, the wind direction can be done right here. Anything that's highlighted light gray is selectable, all right? So I can type in the winds coming from 3 o'clock, and I can say that the wind is 6 miles an hour, okay? There you go. So it's telling me to push right 0.8. And if it was a 9 o'clock wind, you can see it switching on me. All right, it's giving me my dial ups to 6.92 mils. It's also doing inclination and azimuth. The HUD now, once you've built the gun profile, the HUD is where you will actually do all your work from. So let's say I want to get the compass direction towards that target. I push in inclination and azimuth. It does angle, compass, and hit set both, and it's done. So it just grabbed compass direction and inclination and azimuth. Normal valley and canyon winds, this is for using a wind meter only, and that's if you have to. Now you'll see manual, meter, mirage, and rain. If I got manual, you're not going to see mirage and rain. Manual is where I type everything in. Meter is if I'm connected to a wind meter. It'll connect to a Kestrel, it'll connect to a weather flow. So all these wind meters that are feeding the app live wind, you have to set it on meter mode to see it, and you would see it in here. And I can show you videos of that. Mirage and rain is never, ever going to be for sale. It is purely for people that come here to my class. All right, so for you guys that see it on my videos, this is not for you. All right, you're not going to see that. All right, in the upper left is the gear or the settings. This is where you tell the program what you want to see on a heads-up display. I can prefer fractions. It'll show fractions. Tell you what, let me switch over to minutes. It's a lot easier to show you that. Go to minute of angle, and you can see I've got fractions, 23.25. Now, I don't like that, but I'm going to leave it off. Valley and canyon winds I want to see. I want to show temperature and pressure. If you want to see moving targets, you can select it. Relative wind is for the PRS or multi. Hold for aerodynamic jump. I get a lot of guys that contact me and say, I got 2 dial-ups. No, you don't. This is purely for training in the classroom. It's just showing you how much aerodynamic jump you have. Watch this. We're at 23.25 minutes. If I make it a 6 mile an hour wind, you can see we got a 1/4 minute of aerodynamic jump. So you now have to add that together. I like it done automatically, so I leave it off, all right? Back in the gear in the upper settings is where you would select target mode or max ord. If I want to actually learn to read wind and do everything like I teach in my classes, I'm telling my students that we got a 7-foot max ord, and it's happening at the peak of the max ord at 550 yards. I've got a retained velocity of 1,695 feet per second on the impact on the animal, 938 foot-pounds of energy, and it's taken 1.33 seconds for the bullet to get there, all right? I can do this in minutes or mils. In other words, it'll give me 14 minutes of max ord, or I can leave it in feet. I like mine in feet. All right, now we're moving on. Let's go to the multi-target mode, all right? This is your heads-up display for PRS. And you can see I've got all these different stages in here, all right? And you can do targets. This is so intuitive. You can tell it, all right, I've got for instance, a 10 mile an hour wind, but I've got a 3 mile an hour variance. It will give you high winds and low winds. Let me click it up to a 10 mile an hour wind. And you can see all my wind holds are here. It's got all my elevation adjustments. If I want to build it, let's clean this thing up and delete all this junk. Boom, bye-bye, have a nice day. So to build a new target, tap, 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 and you name the target. There's T, there's target Y, there's target U, there's target I. I'm just going to do one stage. And then range, I can type in here and say, okay, it's 620 yards, or if you're connected to one of the range finders at work, 620 yards, and now we're at 289 yards. Next target is 360, and far target is 1200. So now you can see I got all my dial-ups, all right, and elevation, and inclination and azimuth. I click in here, that target's over there, click in here, that target's over there, click in here, that target's over there, click in here, that target's over there. You can see where I'm going with this, and then I got another target over here. So now you can see it's automatically grabbing outside temperature, pressure. You don't need to connect it to anything. And then the temperature is automatic if you have cell service. If you don't have cell service, you can connect it to basically anything that sends link or Bluetooth with temperature, like Kestrels or anything else, or weather flows. So at this point, I've got my entire stage built, all right? And I can name the stage by going into the folder. And here's the cool part. Let's say that I want to use a relative wind, or maybe I want to use a adjusted wind. So let me go back in here and go to the HUD, and I'm going to turn on relative wind. Okay. All right, let's turn that on, and I'm going to turn moving targets on. So now you can see I got a moving target area for movers and speed. If I don't know what it is, or if I do know what it is, I can type it in, and I can say, okay, it's a 3-mile-an-hour wind. There's all my leads for that mover, for that target. Let's say I don't know what it is. I can literally hit the flip screen in the upper left. By the way, if you see a flip screen, that means it does something else. And I can look through my crosshairs, hit the timer, the phone just vibrated, and stop. So let's say that in that amount of time, that mover through my reticle moved, let's say 4 minutes. It says that it's got a speed of 0.52 mile an hour, hit set. It automatically drops in the actual mover speed. Relative wind is simple. Let's say I'm reading my wind. I can push and hold, and it will actually, try that again. I can push and hold, and it will actually set my relative wind to the actual distance that I'm shooting, or the actual compass direction that I'm shooting for relative wind. So it's a pretty cool little setup, and you'll notice when I do that, it locks it for relative wind. All right, so let me turn off all this stuff that I don't want to see in there. Let's turn off relative wind. Bye-bye. And I want to turn off moving targets. I'm just cleaning up the heads-up display. All right, here's a cool feature. So let's say that I just got all my targets, I got all my lanes, I got all my stages, and I want to share it with my squad. Hit the folder, and then you're going to hit the grid, and you can see I can pull up a QR code that can literally scan it, and it puts in all the stages and lanes inside their phone. I can send it by email. All right. If I push here, it's going to email them the QR code, and they can at home just literally push this and drop it in, and it's going to drop it inside Eagle Ballistics. So I got a whole video on this, so I'm not going to get into this in too much detail. So this is for sharing. By the way, I'm going to get off of PRS. I can do the same thing with my guns. If I go back to the settings, and you'll see again, if I click on my folder and I want to share all my guns with somebody, click the grid, click the QR code, and they can scan it, and it'll drop all my guns in their phone, or I can email it to them. So I'm covering just a tiny little bit of what this app does. There's so much more. As far as measuring animals, it does all that. As far as ranging with reticle, it does all that. So we are partnering with a few rangefinders, one European, I'm not going to mention them yet, and one US made, where this engine is going to actually be inside of that rangefinder. So it's going to be a nice little system. All right. So hopefully you guys understood this. I know I went pretty fast on Eagle Ballistics, but what I'm basically showing you is how powerful this app is, what it's capable of for not only long range hunting, shooting, but PRS. It's just going to literally, I think, take over once people start using it. And guys, we built this algorithm in here, the Truing BCs, the solver. This app does a lot more than what others don't. Anyway, if you have any questions, you guys can always call us. And you guys know my email. It's info or James, either one, at eagleballistics.com. And then the phone number is 615-308-8498 for Eagle Ballistics. All right, have a great day. Hope you guys enjoyed this. James Eagleman, Eagle Ballistics. We'll talk to you later.